Hi, everybody. We made it through another week together and weekend. We're back here on a Monday, and we want to keep you updated on all of the numbers here in Arizona. We want to welcome you to Coronavirus Inside the Arizona Numbers. I'm Katie Rammel. Alongside me here, Garrett Archer, our data analyst, diving into all the numbers and helping us better understand these numbers as they come in. We're here to teach you. We're here to help you find the numbers that you're looking for so that you can make the best decisions for your family. You know what's best for your family. You know what's right. And let us help teach you where to find this data online, where to find the most reliable numbers out there. I know so many families, Garrett, are up against a deadline right now to make decisions on schools and whether they'll send their kids back or whether they'll be teaching them at home. So we're here to help guide you through all of that. In the live comments is a great place to ask us questions, and we can help you find the exact website where you can be able to look it up for yourself each day as well. So Garrett, hopefully you had a great weekend. Good to have you back after a Friday.
Thank you so much.
And we want to thank all of you for joining us here online. It means so much that you spend part of your day with us. So let's get right into the numbers, Garrett. We had a very busy weekend. Some lower numbers on a Monday, which is of course typical of a Monday to be a bit lower in the reporting numbers. But boy, this weekend was very high. So how do things shake out? How do we put that all in perspective?
So yes, it's always important to remember that in these specific Monday reports, while some of the numbers may look very good, there is a lag in reporting. A lot of times, some of the counties don't report, or some of the morgues don't report. There's just always a lower number on Sunday, Mondays. Now, we did have some numbers this weekend come in, and I'll just go over them really quick, just to go through that. On the 11th, we had 3,000 cases, which was about a 2.5% increase. That is not as high as it has been for a while. And then on yesterday, we had 2,500 come in, and that was out of, but we did have to, just to go through those two as well, even though the numbers of cases were very low for this last weekend, we had very high death numbers on both of those days. So the 11th, we had 69 deaths, and on the 12th, we had 86 reported. That's very, very high for weekend reports. Today, on Monday, we've had 8 so far reported. We're going to see what happens on Tuesday. Typically, that number will increase to sort of what the average for the week will be, but Mondays is typically very low. So I'm going to share my screen here to show what today's numbers look like. This is all these numbers that we talk about come from the AZDHS website. This is the dashboard that they use to put these numbers out. Here's the summary numbers for today. As you can see, about 123,000 cases, 723%, 1% of those is probable. The number of deaths right here, 2245 with 123 probable. Today's reported numbers, 1357 with 8 deaths. That is against a PCR, which is the diagnostic test. That's against about 6,200 tests. That is a very low testing number. Although the sort of encouraging signs, even with that low testing number, which you can always presume that when a low testing number happens, that you're going to get a lower case count. But we also had a fairly low percent positive come in with those numbers too. We've had about 3 days so far of only 20% positive on this daily report, and that's very encouraging. Because while that percent positive of this summary report is not the true percent positive test by any means, it's just simply used as a ratio to compare state by states. And we've been, in some cases, we've been in the 30s with that number. So having 20% for a couple days in a row that's a good thing.
Yeah, I remember, Garrett, just last week we had a day that was the overnight number was 34%. Yeah. Wildly high. Can you explain the difference to people right there that you have highlighted, that PCR percent positive? How then is that number, because this is a question I get a lot, how is that number different from the number we've been showing folks at the bottom of the page, which has the week by week chart?
So this number, oh, please.
Go ahead. That number's the cumulative?
So yes, this is a cumulative percentage of all of these tests. So all 700,000 tests against all of the cases that we have from PCRs. So as you can tell, and I know people have been talking about this for a while, Arizona does combine the PCR diagnostic numbers with the antibody serology numbers into the case count. Some people don't like that, but at least Arizona gives us the ability to see how they split out from one another, so that we're not sort of looking at this one all-encompassing number and not knowing the number of antibody tests that are making up these case counts, because many people would argue that an antibody case count should not be included with the case count for the diagnostics, because that antibody person likely no longer is showing symptoms or is infectious. So, you know, they shouldn't really be together. So we get this 14.2%, and that's the total of all of these PCRs. And that number usually goes up by about 2 to 3/10 of a point every day. For the last couple of days, again, this is encouraging. It's only gone up by 1/10 of a point. And what we want to see is, we actually want to see this number, since it is a cumulative, but it's a percentage, this number can at some point start going down. So we're hoping that this number will start going down at some point.
Yeah, that I remember when that number was around almost as low as 5%. It was at about 5.2% at the end of May, and that was a really encouraging sign. And then once everything opened up, boy, we've just seen that number skyrocket. So just for everybody on here, just remember those two numbers are different. So the overnight percentage of positive rate that, Garrett, I love that you've been including it on your Twitter account each day too. It's really helpful. Saves us a step in the division there to get that number, to see the percent positive overnight, and then to put that in perspective for what it looks like over time, but really to watch how that thing is changing. Garrett, we have so much more to get to. I've had so many questions that are coming in, and I want to get to one that Otto wrote just a little bit ago, because so many people have been asking questions about schools. And we're expecting at about 3 p.m. a bit of an update on our schools. There's his question. Some people said schools will open in October. So Otto, really important question. 3 school districts in Arizona, in addition to the governor's orders, have pushed back their date even further. So the governor has pushed back in-person learning in Arizona to August 17th. Many schools were starting at the end of July, or scheduled to start at the end of July. My child's school was set to start at the beginning of August. Their school will still be starting. In-person will not start till August 17th. And then Friday, Garrett, Friday, your day off was so interesting. 3 different schools weighed in and said, this is too early for us. We're going to be starting later. One of those that came late in the day was Phoenix Elementary School District, Scottsdale School District. So some of these schools are making decisions on their own to do that. What we're expecting, Otto, at 3 p.m., and we'll carry it live right here on Facebook Live for you, is the doctors and the school board. They're expected to update in a news conference what they want to see happen for the schools. So a lot of them have been sending letters to the governor. They're bypassing that at this point and holding their own news conference. I have to correct myself on that. I don't know if we're going to have it on Facebook Live. We will have a complete wrap at 4, 5, and 6 p.m. on our newscast as well. I'll try to find out a little more, because we're running up on that time pretty soon already. But I'll find out for certain if we're going to cover it here on Facebook Live. So schools, I know so many of you are asking about that. That is the best answer we have at this point, the latest update that we have from schools. But so far, 3 adjusting that to later in the year, 1 as late as October 12th after fall break. So it is definitely something to watch. Danielle Lerner is our education reporter, and she's been tracking all of this minute by minute as it comes in. And you can find updates from her on her Twitter account, and also right here, there's her Twitter account, Danielle Lerner, at Danielle Lerner, and also on our website at abc15.com/coronavirus. There's updates on the schooling. All right, Garrett, let's get back to some of the numbers. We've been watching Florida as well. It seems like hotspots in Florida and Arizona are constantly making national news. I had to look up the population, the updated population, and Census Reporter, is it .org?
Censusreporter.org, yes.
.org. Reminded me that there's 21 million people living in Florida right now, which, as a numbers person, I'm thinking 7 million in Arizona. That is easy for me to remember, because when I see 15,000 cases, new positive cases coming out of Florida, that would be like Arizona seeing 5,000 cases. So it kind of puts it in perspective for us when we're seeing some of those high 3,000 days here.
Yes, and that is absolutely true, and that's why there are several visualization sites and other places where you can see what the COVID data looks like on a per capita basis. That way you can kind of see with, when you've got these, obviously these different populations in these larger states, these mid-sized states like ours, and what the impact looks like. One of them that is a very good site for that is 91-dvoc.com. this is a great site for looking up the, let me just put it up really quick so everyone
and DBOC, for people to remember easily, is simply COVID spelled backwards. Another way to read that there. That's it. That's a great site to help as well. It's just interesting to see some of the numbers in Florida and try to put that in perspective with what we're seeing in Arizona. And sadly, we're not that far off.
No, so you can see right here, this is the normalized by population of new cases, the 7-day rolling average. So what you're seeing right here is, you know, we talked about this a couple days ago, this number right here, which was when our new case numbers in Arizona were actually higher than what New York on a per capita basis was reporting at its peak. As you can see, the last several days, we've dropped from that. And you can see right here, right under us, almost on the same line at this point, is Florida. So Florida, as it's increasing its numbers right now, we're now sort of in the same situation where the hotspots between Florida and Arizona are about the same.
I want to just note Anastasia writing in to say thank you. Knowledge is power. Anastasia, that's what we hope it is for everybody on here. We want to help you all find the best numbers, the best data that's out there so that you can make the best decisions for your family. You know your family best. You know your family's health. You know what is going to be safe for you and not safe for you. We just want to help you find all of those numbers and the best place to find them online. We stare at this stuff all day long, so we can help you dive into the site a little bit faster so we can save you time. You don't have to waste your time digging through sites trying to find all the latest information on here. One area that everybody's been talking about is some of the testing, and I want to remind folks that we've talked a lot on ABC 15 about ASU's saliva tests. There were reporting that came in over the weekend that's worth diving into on abc15.com/coronavirus, and some great information on there. I also want to tell you that Mesa Community College has a testing site. They've got a test site that's going on 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only thing is you do have to reserve a spot. So be sure to jump online to be able to reserve a spot. Mesa Community College is where that's happening. But for a lot of you who do not want to go wait over at South Mountain Community College, where you've seen those long lines of people that we've been covering, that's a way to get around those long lines and be able to maybe go in the middle of the evening when the lines aren't going to be so long. And that can help save in the heat and in gas and all of those things. Joan writes in, can you please give us recovery rates so we know how people are recovering? People need hope and faith. Boy, Joan, this was a heated conversation on my Facebook page this week because people were saying what would be the best way to gauge recovery. And Garrett, we don't have a set way to gauge recovery at this point. And the best thing we have is the discharge from the hospital. And those discharges are at about 14,000 people. I just checked this morning. So a recovery rate best defined at this point by that. Garrett, have you heard anything about a better way or a better way on the horizon to track the numbers of recoveries here in Arizona?
So yes, you are correct. The problem with the recovery number, and I know this is a continuum of frustration with a lot of Arizonans, is that we don't have a recovery number that is being reported. I know I think Nevada is one that has a statewide recovery number, and some other states do. Our AZDHS, our Department of Health Services, has not settled on a definition of recovery. We do have some counties that do give us recovery numbers, and a lot of times that definition that the counties use has to do with the length of time on the age group of that case. So if you're 18 to 44, for example, you may be considered recovered after 2 weeks. If you're after 45, your case may be considered recovered after, I think it's 27 days. And these, of course, estimates, because of course people could have recoveries that are much longer in time than sort of the typical case here. But since we don't have one statewide, and because Maricopa and Pima, our two largest counties, don't have one, there's really no sense in reporting a recovery number for the state that does not include Maricopa and Pima. So as of right now, and it's the same number that's being used by Johns Hopkins and COVIDtracking.com, we are using the hospital discharges. Right now, that number is a little over 15,000.
Mm-hmm. So, Joan, that's the best number we have at this point, and the best place to track it is COVIDtracking.com. That's where you can find the very latest numbers on that. Garrett, you tweeted about Yuma zip code. They are the first zip code in Arizona to go over 3,000.
Yes. So we obviously are getting zip code data. And if you want to find that yourself, you can go onto the AZDHS's website and it will take you to the zip code data. I'll bring that up really quick so everyone can see it.
Yeah, and as you do, I always remind people that it seems a little strange as you click through it. Yeah. You are on the appropriate site. It just doesn't, to people who are cautious of scams and things like that, as you go to azdhs.gov, it's just going to be a tiny link on the bottom. It takes you to a separate page for zip codes. You are indeed in the correct spot. So see that little red line down there that Garrett just clicked? It almost feels like you're not in the right spot, but you are. This is what that zip code map should look like. And I saw your Twitter account this morning, and it had said over 3,000 positive cases. This is the first zip code to do so. A pretty big zip code?
Yes, pardon me. It is a fairly large zip code. As you can see, it encompasses most of Yuma proper. This is where Yuma Regional Medical Facility is, just that's the largest population in Yuma is right here. And you can see this was the first zip code that we had, 85364, to go over 3,000 cases. Somerton, this one is very close, as you can see, 2637. This one is also impacted by Department of Corrections. That's down here as well. I believe there's a couple prisons right over here. So, you know, Yuma, a small area, small county, but has had a very sizable hotspot. It was a very sizable hotspot for quite some time. Another one was, and still is, sort of Santa Cruz County right down here. As you can see, smaller numbers, 1224 for 85621, but this is also a much smaller county than Yuma. And technically, Santa Cruz has per capita still the highest sort of infection rate for the state.
Yeah, and not a zip code, but a county. And talking Maricopa County, Maricopa County is now third on the list of counties in the United States for the highest number of confirmed cases, as we passed 80,000 cases just recently. So another thing to note, of course, you have to look at that just as you do with the zip codes in relation to population as well to get a sort of accurate number in all of this, because it wouldn't be fair to compare that to a very, very small county, or in this case on the zip code page, a very small zip code.
Yeah, you can see this map, although it's good to it's good to look at your own zip code and the zip codes around it. But as you can see, one of the issues that this map has is that its gradient ends at 250 cases. And as we just saw, there are now cases with multiple times that. So because you've got, you know, that sort of situation, you've got all this dark red, but there's not going to be an equal number of cases here. So you take these numbers right here, 85296 in the East Valley, 513 cases. But then you go down here to one of the hardest hit zip codes, 85301, 1,800 cases. So there's obviously a massive disparity between those two, and yet the color that they're using to sort of show where the hardest hit zip codes are, they're about the same. Now, of course, this is not a per capita map for zip codes, so a lot of these zip codes do not have the same density with each other, so that you have to take that into consideration. So there are other places that are doing density maps for zip codes. You know, this is not one of them. This is the AZDHS's own website, and they're just simply doing case counts.
Yeah. We're almost ready to adjust the legend again so that there's...
Yeah, they do it about once a month. So yeah. It's about time for them to readjust.
Yes. Garrett, I want to update everybody that was asking about the school doctors and school board members that are getting set to talk in just about an hour. I didn't know where our coverage would be on that. It'll be right here on Facebook Live at 3 o'clock. And our wonderful producer, Carrie, is also telling me we're going to cover it on the ABC 15 YouTube page as well. So 2 places for you to watch. Of course, if you don't have time for that, we have a complete recap coming up at 4, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. as well. One other note, a viewer just wrote in, Andrew, there it is. My dad's part of the 671 who are on ventilators right now. So Andrew, we're thinking of your family. We're hearing from so many people like you who have friends and family and a lot of parents right now in their fight of their lives as they try to battle this thing. But yeah, 671 people, Arizonans across the state on ventilators. One other note that we want to update you on is that Gavin Newsom just spoke a little bit ago and was tweeting. Maybe you've seen his Twitter page, but he posted about some changes in California. So this is of note if you plan on traveling out there over the weekends. And also we watch this very closely because it does reflect on things that happen here in Arizona. He tweets, as new COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations continue to rise, 30 counties will now be required to close indoor operations. That's for fitness centers, places of worship, offices for non-critical sectors, personal care services, hair salons, barbershops, and malls. That's a lot of places there in California that are closing. I'm wondering, Garrett, if you or if any of our viewers on here right now have seen a trickle-down effect. So I got an email this morning from a company that's based in California that has stores here in Arizona saying, because of the climate, we're closing down. We're not going to stay open due to COVID-19. But it's interesting when these regulations come down in California that you know, some of those companies that are based in California, it sort of has a trickle down effect here in Arizona.
Yeah, I think you see that with all of our malls. You know, we live, you know, close to sort of the Chandler Fashion Center. We've seen how a lot of the stores at the, you know, there's very little foot traffic at the Chandler Fashion Center, and then a lot of the stores are still closed. And even though at the time there were no orders specifying them to do so in Arizona, they still remain closed because a lot of their, you know, these are just franchises of stores that are based outside of Arizona, and so they've just, you know, because of their operations in California being closed, they were closed.
Yeah. I'm sure Margaret here, Andrew, who we just highlighted a minute ago, she writes, "I'm so sorry. I hope he's okay," referring to Andrew's dad. "If you need to talk, I'm here." And I just, Margaret, I just want to say thank you, because that caring environment is so important for us to see on here, and to help everybody remember that we are a community. Garrett and I live here. I've lived here almost my whole life, since 5th grade, and it's beautiful to see the way people are helping each other out in this time, and so I just wanted to highlight your comment there. So thank you. Garrett, some of the other numbers that you're seeing overnight, let's talk about some of those hospitalization numbers. There are a few areas of hope, or at least hopefully it's not a mirage, but the start of something that could be a little better in some of those numbers.
Yeah, so we definitely saw some interesting sort of developments in the hospitalizations over the last couple of days that seem to, as you say, give us sort of a glimmer of hope that we might be starting a trendward down, or at least a very significant leveling off. So when we look at the dashboard, which I've shared here, and we go to the hospital COVID-19 specific metrics, we're going to look at two specific metrics today. The first thing we're going to look at is the inpatient COVID-19. These are the sort of acute care beds. So anybody who goes into the hospital but does not require ICU care, they would be considered someone who goes into acute care. They haven't been to a step-down facility. They're just in a general hospital. And you can see that we now have 2 days of that number going down. There's been only one other day in the last, gosh, it looks like a month now, where it's gone down only once, and that was sort of a reporting artifact. And now we have 2 days of sort of a downward trend. We're really going to be paying attention to that over the next couple of days, because if that levels off or continues to go down, now that doesn't mean it's not going to go up again, but if it continues sort of a trend-wise down over a 7-day rolling average, you know, that is a significantly a good development. ICU beds are still at a record number right now, but they also lag the inpatient beds. So hopefully, seeing a downward trend in the inpatient beds, we will follow closely a downward trend in the ICU beds. So that's another number we're going to be watching a lot. Another number, this is what's called the hospital COVID-like influenza illness surveillance. This is a system run by the CDC. It's sort of takes all the information from hospital codes, symptoms, and it puts it into an algorithm and figures out what's going on. They've been using this for influenza-like illnesses for a long time. That's been redeveloped a little bit for this COVID-like illness as well. And as you can see, on the week of 6/28, we hit a high of 20% of people coming to hospitals saying having some sort of COVID-like illness. And now we're down to 15%. That's a 4-point drop in a week. That's a significant development. And that's something we're going to be watching. This only really redevelops every week, so we have to watch this over time. It's not as fast as the others, but to see that sort of a drop, this is a great thing. So it's a little harder to incorporate this into some of the other numbers, but we're going to be watching this.
Yeah, for sure. Monica asks, I think she's referring to some of the hospital numbers, but are all of these cases COVID? And I want to be able to show Monica where she can see that area highlighted for the hospital-specific metrics that are isolated to COVID-19, so that Monica can find those numbers. And that toolbar right there, Garrett, it highlights that for everybody.
Yeah. So these are, as you can see, number of positive or suspected COVID-19 inpatients. And I know that a lot of people look at this and say, oh, well, it says positive or suspected. So, that obviously causes some confusion. We look up here really quick. This is a bit of a caveat, but we go back to the summary page and we see what the number of cases, as soon as it reloads, we see what the number of cases, that the probable number is about 1%. So this hospital-like number should be very much incorporated, mostly, sorry, it went to the wrong one, the numbers of people who were tested and confirmed positive. So with this, we have, this is the inpatient, 3373. We already talked about that. The ventilator number, this is at a record high. I know that that gentleman just mentioned that on the 671. ICU, this is the intensive care unit, yet another record high. This is the discharge number. So this number is either a discharge of people who have either left the hospital, transferred to a hospital, or went to, and unfortunately it could also be a death number as well. It's any number of reasons that a bed was released. Emergency room, this is another one that we're watching very closely. Something to be considerate of, very hopeful, as you see there's been a 5-day step down of the emergency numbers. Very, very encouraging to see a 5-day step down of the emergency department visits. And then, of course, the intubations. This is the number of people who are intubated for ventilator use. And as you can see, this is a much more widely varied graph. And we are down right now, but it's hard to take any information from this except for looking at it over a weekly period, because it varies so much.
Yeah, that looking at it over the week, as it does in any of these charts, helps to sort of smooth out the edges so you don't see those anomalies in reporting, and then you can kind of get a better understanding of what's going on there. Oh, Deanna, you're so welcome. We just want to help people find the information. Honestly, you know your family better than we do. We know our own family better. So I just believe everybody can make the best choices for themselves when they have the best amount of information and when they know where to find that. So Garrett and I are just here each day at around 1:30 to try and teach you all where to find the best info the fastest, where it's most reliable, where it's updated in a speedy fashion, because everybody wants the information nowadays. So Deanna, thank you so much for saying that. LJF asked a while back, heard certain age kids are too young to be tested. Heard anything about that? I have not. We have had reported on infants testing positive. So I have not heard anything about an age group that would be outside of the testing age. So hopefully that helps to update you. Garrett, had you heard anything differently?
No, and I wanted to bring someone over. There was at one point, we did have information on 0 to 5 at Yavapai. I just checked to see if it was there, and it's not there anymore. So, well, we do have 0 to 12 numbers. I know one of the frustrations people have is that these large age categories, but Yavapai County does give us a little bit more of a breakout. And right now, they have 1,167 cases, and 39 of those cases are 0 to 12. Very small number, obviously, but that's what they have as far as that sort of minor category right there.
Yeah. So, and Yavapai is the only one that you know of in Arizona that splits that
goes that far down. Yes.
Yeah. Everybody else is 20 and under, if I'm not mistaken.
It's either 19 or 20 and under, but yes, so they stay at 19 or 20.
All right. Any other numbers that caught your attention here today? I know, as we said, for people who were just joining late, those numbers were very, very high over the weekend. As Monday came out, they were a little more encouraging, although they're always lower on Monday. And I just want to note, I'm just seeing somebody else's, Dorothy's question on R0 numbers. 1.02, I believe it was at today.
Yep, I've already pulled it up so everyone can figure out how to get there. Here it is. This is the R0. This is taken from rt.live. And this, if anybody needs to know what the R0 number is, basically the rate of transmission that a person can transmit the disease. So obviously we want to see this number under. Sorry, I have a kid walking in. My apologies.
Okay.
We have we want to see this number under 1, and what we have right now is a 1.02. This weekend, this was at about 1.05, 1.06. It went all the way up to 1.09, and now we're at 1.02. So this is very encouraging as well. And you can kind of see it. It might be a little hard to see, but you can see how this is. This is sort of there's a shaded area, and what that is this is since R naught is an estimate in and of itself. They're giving you sort of the high and the low of what they think it is. So basically they're saying this could be under 1 and this could be anywhere as high as 1.2 or something.
Yeah, that range is really interesting. But the number that they give us is that's with 95% confidence, Garrett?
Yes, this is their confidence interval saying we are 95% sure that as of right now, the R naught is 1.02. And you will see this R naught different with some different projections. One of the forecasts that I like very much is the COVID-19-projections.com. I'll show that really quick. This is my favorite forecasting site for anyone that wants to look at the forecasts. And what this is this is a project out of MIT using machine learning. It's been very accurate for states all across the country. So we have here, their R naught is at 1.01. So you can see there's a convergence with RT Live and the RT of COVID-19 projections. So we want to see this under 1. We're getting there. And just to go over this as well, you can see that as far as their infections, it believes that we are somewhere around the peak right now, and we should start seeing a decline sooner than later.
Garrett, I want to highlight a question that's coming in from Rini. And she asks, how about we get a daily graph of Arizonans on ventilators instead of percentages? We can actually see that number for her as well.
Yes, we do. So we can give you, hold on one second. Let me get back to that. We'll just keep bouncing around to these sites. There's no problem with that.
Yeah, Rini, we just want to be able to, as I'm kicking my computer, I'm sitting on the floor. Sorry, everyone. I'm sitting on the floor here. So I'm kicking my computer as we're doing this in my son's bedroom. You have your daughter there playing in the background. In fact, people are commenting that she's so cute, and I have to agree. She's adorable. Actually, Garrett's daughter and my daughter were just, before we started all this, able to see each other and say hi. So it's kind of fun when they don't have their friends to play with all the time. So it's nice to be able to just say hi this way. All right, let's go where we can find those, where she can find that exact number. You can see the number who are currently on ventilators. And then there's also a look back. I think it's on a different page, though, how many total we've had over time.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the census of ventilators. So this is everybody on a ventilator in the state, regardless of if they've been tested positive for COVID-19 or not. As you can see, this is a percentage chart, and it does give you a percentage of 51% of people are on ventilators, but it also gives you that number 949. So what we're seeing basically, so of these numbers, 671 ventilators for COVID-19 patients. There's an addition. In all total, there's 949 being used in the state right now, and we have 910 available ventilators right now. These numbers do vary a little bit over time. If you spent the time to put these all together, you would notice that they don't all equal the same number every single time, but they aren't wildly different for the most part. So, you know, we're sort of confident that this is just a reporting issue with hospitals and other, you know, some smaller systems every once in a while reporting something different or not reporting one day. But we're talking about, when you're talking about Banner, when you're talking about Dignity Health, when you're talking about Honor Health, you're getting, you know, the vast majority of these numbers come from those 3 hospital systems. And so, you know, those are going to not change. So
Rini, I hope that helps. The good news is ventilators have not been a problem for us ever. I mean, early on, we were trying to acquire more, but that has not been a worry that we've seen, and that's the good news in all of this. So that's the place. AZDHS website is the place where you can find this. Alex writes, are graphs per capita numbers or just total number of people? Most of these graphs have a legend that better explains.
Yes, most of the AZDHS data comes out, it's just the total counts. They do have the one area in which you can get per capita is on the summary page. You can come down here, there's a little drop down right here where you can change it to per 100,000. And this way you can kind of see where everything is as far as the hot spots are. It does give a per 100,000 on the summary page for the entire state. But as you can see, you know, for the longest time, we were, this was, and still, as you can see, about such a high per capita in the Navajo Nation region of the state. But you can see right here what I was talking about, how it was the high, Santa Cruz was the hardest hit county. It has a per capita rate of 4,000, just above Navajo, the county of Navajo, which was our initial hotspot in this state.
Marita writes, what's making me angry is they won't give tips and tools to build their immune systems. We would love to, but we're not doctors. We're only numbers people. Garrett is a data analyst, and I love numbers and love stats, but happen to go into words for my profession. So this is my hobby. Numbers are my hobby. For Garrett, he's the studied one in this. So we're here to help you break down all the numbers. The best tips and tricks and tools to boost your immune system come from your doctor. So we encourage you to reach out to your healthcare provider for what they think is the best for you and what they can analyze based on any medications or things that you're on. So that's where to go to find that information on that. Veronica says, thank you for coming on every day for giving us these stats. I love this online program. Veronica, thank you for saying so. We love to help people find this. That's just why we're on here each day. So we, as I've said, have been studying this stuff since January 17th, a lot longer than we thought we would have been or hoped we would have been, but here we are. So we're here to just help you find the numbers, find the details, find the stats, and dig into them, and then you can make the best choices for your life. So Veronica, thank you so much for saying so. LJ's asking about the stats on AZ Department of Child Safety. LJ, let us know what specific number you're looking for, because Garrett, there are not numbers coming out of DCS. No,
they have not given us numbers, and I don't presume that the DES is or the Department of Child Safety is going to give us numbers, because our state has a very strict interpretation of HIPAA, and I would presume that, especially because you've got that on top of being minor children, I don't presume we're going to get anything from them because of those two combinations.
Yeah. Thank you, LJ, for the question. What is the R rate? Kevin Wood is asking. I think he's asking the R naught. What is the R naught? It basically means how quickly it's spreading within a community. Is that the best way?
Yeah, it's basically the estimate is how many people, if you're one per, how many people can one person spread it to? Mm-hmm. So, what's that infection rate? So right now it's at 1.01. You want to obviously see that down. We've got a large population of people that have this, disease. We've have estimates. I mean, University of Arizona made an estimate, I think, on Friday, where they said that it's possible that 3 to 5% of Arizona has had COVID-19 at some point, and the current estimate is about 1 to 2% of Arizona currently is active with it. So what that R naught is of that 1 to 2% of Arizona that is active with COVID-19, how many people can they spread it to? And right now we're close to a 1-to-1 ratio. We want to see that obviously under 1, because that's when the disease starts to rescind itself.
Yeah, and finally settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
People are saying that HIPAA covers patient details like name. We agree. We would love to just get numbers, but because our state interprets it like that, we're not able to get numbers from certain agencies. It's sort of something that we went through with some of our assisted living facilities, and we petitioned to get more numbers for this, but ultimately that is just not how the state sees it. Jessica asks, does the plateau in daily testing rates impact the daily positives?
We don't presume it does that much. Yeah. So what I would say about that, because yes, that is always something comes up where people say, well, there's less tests, so there's less case. And absolutely, that is a true correlation. When there are less tests released, there are less cases come in. However, what we would expect to see if there was really a situation in which community members could not get the adequate testing, we would start to see that percent of positive go up by sort of tremendous amounts. We were sort of concerned that was happening, and I think it was happening and still might be happening. We have a lag of about 10 to 12 days here on these tests, but we were seeing, when we saw that 34%, I mean, we had, let me see if I can pull something up really quick, but we had our numbers increasing on the percent positive for quite some time with very little change in direction, and it was very concerning. So I'll just show you this right here. This is the sort of percent positive of the test, and you can see right here This is the May, sort of where the opening happened around May 16th. And then we just went on an upward bend that lasted until just this last weekend. And a lot of that, even though there was testing ramping up during that situation, obviously there was a higher transmission rate in the community because more people were coming in and getting tested that were positive. So what we're seeing right now is while the test numbers are going down, the total number of tests, we would expect we would expect that number to continue if the rate of transmission was still going up.
Good stuff. Thank you, Garrett. I want to remind people who are just hopping on here a little bit later that Mesa Community College has a test site. So if you're waiting to get tested and you're seeing these long lines that we've been showing you over at South Mountain Community College, Mesa Community College wants us to remind you that they have tents out there and they are ready for you 24/7. They say that it's a zero-cost COVID-19 test site, and it's the only test site here in the Valley that's open 24/7. So I know if a lot of you are like me, you work nights, you work odd hours, this is probably the best place to go. Open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You do have to register before you go over there. So that's the only thing that needs to be done before you visit. And they just want to make testing accessible to everybody. There's 2 bus routes that stop right there. So they're going to have a place to help people who are walking up on foot, a place to help people who are driving over. If you'd like the website to reserve your slot, it's EmoryWomen'sHealth.com. So that's EmoryWomen'sHealth.com/testing-blitz/. So we'll pop that up on the screen, or if it doesn't get shared here, I can add it to my, there it is right there. Producer Carrie's all over it. So we'll leave that up just for a second so that you can get a closer look at that. But once again, this is for the testing site at Mesa Community College. It's there 24/7 so that you're able to get in and maybe avoid the heat or the long lines out there. So a couple of options there for you. All right, Garrett, are you seeing any other questions you want to dive into before we sort of wrap things up for the day? Anastasia, oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, we just want to get the information out to everybody. So that is what we want to do. So thank you for recognizing that.
I will. I'm just going to share one last time, one more data point that we've gone over a couple times. We didn't go over today. This is we've already talked about the percent positive, but let me show you what the true percent positive on a weekly basis is. And this is these 2 charts here. One of the sort of, again, we're seeing some encouraging stuff right now. And one of the things we're seeing encouraging is these are weekly aggregates. And you can see on the diagnostic testing, you can see this steady rise of percent positive all the way to 21% on June 21st. And now here we are, June 28th, with nearly the same amount of tests filled in, 96,000 to 110, with 21% positive. While still too high, that means that as of right now, with this weekly data, it's no longer going up with the same. In fact, it's not going up right now. It's staying level. And as of right now, even on July 5th, this last week, we're at a 19% positive. Now, this could still go up because there's still a lot of tests to fill in, but still some encouraging data coming out where we could be leveling off here. And I wish we could be absolute. I wish we could tell everyone, okay, we've got this under control. But the problem is that a lot of this stuff, it's a 2-week lag in reporting. So whatever we're seeing today, we have to wait for 2 weeks before something comes in. So I apologize, my daughter's in screen here. So
no, that's fine. We love seeing her back there. It's the true situation of life right now, working at home. And she's adorable. All right. I think that probably wraps it up for today, Garrett. Thank you so much. Oh, Carrie's asking as we go. Carrie with 2 R's is asking, when would we see results from the 4th of July? Likely about 2 weeks after. Is that right?
Yeah, let's see if, this is something I'll just look at right now with you. Right now we have, for the 4th of July, we have 4,840 PCR tests on, excuse me, I moved over one. Oh, wait, I was going to show you where to do it, and then I didn't actually go on the screen there. So back on that same place I just was, you can kind of highlight this stuff, and you can see right here on July 4th, we had 4,840 tests that were taken in that day right now. But as you can see, it's a fairly small number. It still has it's probably going to fill in the next 3 days, because the next, as you can see, it really starts to ramp up after that day. And then when we go to cases right here, we can see that on July 4th right now, we have 1,245 cases. But again, it's still within that area where it could start to ramp up. So we're going to be watching it. But July 4th was on a weekend. And of course, if July 4th itself was an issue with transmission, we're not going to see that for at least 2 weeks, because even though, we see that July 4th number, realistically, that's people who were that's people who tested 7-8 days before July 4th.
Right. And are you on the collection page, Garrett, or the positive
confirmed cases by day? Yes.
So the highest date at this point is what in there?
I'm sorry?
What is the highest?
Oh, the highest day is June 29th at 53:30.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, that's kind of been hovering around that day for a while. So it'll be interesting if that ends up shifting or changes at all. We just had one more really good question about the plateau. Let me see if I can scroll back to it or find the question that just came in. But Stephanie asks, how long is our projected peak? When would we hypothetically start to see a leveling off or a decrease of cases, this month or into August? We would have to go to our projections to kind of look at that, wouldn't we, Garrett? Because this plateau could hang on for a while.
Yes, and these do change. These numbers, based on what's being reported, they can change the plateau. But right now, it believes the COVID-19 projection, which is the one I use, it believes we are currently at the plateau within the couple so days, and it believes we're going to start seeing sort of a lowering off. July, it seems, what is that? July 22nd, July 21st. So sort of in the next week or so, this model believes, as of right now, today, that we're going to start seeing a leveling off. Now, of course, as these numbers, as numbers are reported to the state, if something changes in the next 2 days, where say we get another record report on Tuesday or Wednesday for cases that happened over the weekend, then this is going to be recalculated, and this could push the curve back.
And Garrett, this particular site is all data driven, or does it also read, like, let's say, for instance, hypothetical, don't jump to conclusions, anyone, but if the state were shut down, I know on IMHE and some of the other sites, they adjust to social decisions as well and legislative decisions about how we operate here in Arizona. Is this chart only based on numbers strictly?
So no, it does say, if you want to get really geeky on this stuff, you can follow this link. It does have sort of the assumptions that the model makes regarding reopenings. Although what I can tell you about this specific model is my understanding is it does not, unlike some of the other models where it puts a hard date on the reopening, this one does not do that. It makes assumptions on what a number can be affected by. So what reopening can be affected to the number, but it doesn't put a hard date, say this was a reopening, and then start to recalculate. IHME, the University of Washington model, did that for a long time. I don't even know if it still does that, but it put a hard date and then said, okay, with all these reopenings, we're now going to assume X, Y, Z. And we would see in some cases, there was one time where IHME had just this insane increase in hospitalizations in Arizona. And people were calling me about this, saying, look at this number. It's saying we're going to get 30,000 hospitalizations. And I was like, there's not a chance. Right now, there's no chance that happens in the amount of time that IHME is saying it's going to happen. And then, of course, they recalculated over time, and that went away. But sort of they were making some assumptions that just weren't making sense at that very moment.
Yeah, there were some huge variables in that could be quite scary if you popped in there on, I think they were updating them on Saturdays and Wednesdays, and you could pop in there and just be really concerned. Oh, Alex didn't get the name of that site. Alex, we were talking about rt.live. That was the site that she was asking what has the number that Governor Ducey looks at. We don't know if this is the only place he looks or how often he looks there, but he's talked about it twice now in 2 separate news conferences as a number that's been very important to him and his decision making. So rt.live is where you can find that updated number. All right, Garrett, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. We want to remind people in about 30 minutes, we expect to hear from school board leaders and also a group of doctors about what they think should happen with our schools here in Arizona. We'll have that right here on Facebook Live, and we'll also have that on our YouTube page as well. So ABC 15's YouTube page, you'll be able to find that there. And of course, as always, keep the questions coming even after hours here. You can find me on my Facebook page at facebook.com/news from Katie. I'm also on Twitter. My name, Katie Rammel, is the @ symbol there. Garrett's is at Garrett_Archer. So you can find all of us on those locations. Debbie's asking if that's going to be on TV. I think, Debbie, you're referring to the school board meeting. It is not, but we will have a full wrap at 4, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. because we know education is so important to so many Arizonans here. So we want to keep you updated on that, but we'll have our reporters there and provide a full wrap on that. But if you'd like to watch it in its entirety, you can do that both on Facebook Live here and on our YouTube page. So thank you to all of you who have joined us here. There's more of you who join us every single day. And we just thought we'd get on here weeks ago, Garrett, and just kind of talk about the numbers, and it's snowballed into something that I hope is helping more and more people exponentially. We should have a graph on that. We should have a chart on that. Early on, sometimes there were 70,000 views on there, and now we're passing 100,000, and that's because of all of you. So we hope that we are providing you a service that that helps you find the information so you can make the best choices for your family. And we'll see you on our newscast this evening. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Garrett.